Hey all, it's 6:30. And I would like to call the meeting to order. If you are not in a seat and you'd like to sit, we've got some space. Thank you. Let me go through that again. It is 6:30 and I am calling the meeting to order, and I'd ask that you please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands, a nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice. Thank you. May I have roll call, please?
Mrs. Christensen? Here. Mr. Pantera?
Here.
Mrs. Greenberg?
Here.
Dr. Lim?
Here.
Ms. Wani?
Here.
Thank you. Next on the agenda is approval of agenda. Dr. Reynolds.
Thank you, President Greenberg, Governing Board, Cabinet, and all of our guests this evening. Items approved by consent will not come up for discussion during the meeting, but will be approved when the agenda is adopted. This is possible since members of the Governing Board receive the agenda along with backup materials at least 24 hours prior to the meeting and have had time to review and consider all items. Prior to the agenda being adopted, members of the Governing Board may ask that an item be removed from the consent agenda and brought to the floor for discussion at the appropriate place on the agenda. Any member of the audience who submitted a blue public comment card prior to the start of the meeting will be recognized to speak on that agenda item under items for approval. I would like to offer the agenda as posted.
Thank you. Prior to the meeting, we received one blue public comment card, and each speaker will have 3 minutes to remark on a specific agenda item, will be recognized to speak under items for approval. As a reminder, we ask that you please direct your comments to the board. Does any member of the Governing Board wish to have an item removed from the consent agenda? Mrs. Christensen?
Item F6.
So, F6, so that will move to the end of items for approval. After gifts and donations, does anybody else wish to remove anything from the consent agenda? Seeing none, Mr. Pantera, may I have a motion to approve the meeting agenda and recommended consent agenda items?
So moved.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, say nay. Any abstentions? Motion passes unanimously. Next on the agenda is Governing Board statements. Ms. Wani, do you have any?
Yeah, I just want to kind of give a quick shout out to Campo Bello, who so kindly invited me to come and hang out with them for a little bit today, and I had an opportunity to see those smart panels, those smart boards. I'm probably using the wrong name, but they were on our agenda last governing board meeting, and so I was really excited to be able to kind of see them in live action in one of the structured autism classes. I was very impressed. It was incredible watching the students interact and engage, and had so many different opportunities to do so. So it was really nice to kind of take something that, is on our agenda that we had some robust discussion and conversation about, and then have an opportunity to really see how it's being used, every day on our campus. So I just thank you so much for that invitation, and I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Ms. Wani. Mrs. Christensen, do you have anything?
Yes. I just want to send a message to the community of Indian Bend. Dear parents of Indian Bend Elementary, we appreciate you trusting us with educating your children. If any of your children are experiencing illnesses such as headaches, nausea, or respiratory concerns, please contact the school or district offices. Lo siento, no habla español muy bien. Estimados padres de alumnos de Colegio Elementario de Indian Bend, apreciamos la confianza que nos dan en la educación de sus hijos. Si algunos de sus hijos están teniendo condiciones médicas tal como dolores de cabeza, náuseas o dificultades respiratorias, por favor, llamen al colegio, a la oficina o la oficina del distrito. no hablas español muy bien, pero I really appreciate all the people coming today, and I just want to send that message out to those at Indian Bend Elementary.
Dr. Lim?
All right, thank you. I'm gonna free flow a little bit because as you will hear why. I just want to take a moment to highlight the PVUSD community giving back and then getting to highlight the public community giving back to PV. So as my fellow board members know, and much of the community may know, my youngest daughter went in for open heart surgery just last week. It was something we knew that was coming. She's had a heart condition for a very long time. I really appreciated the community at our Little Cubs program at James P. Lee for really helping prepare her for her upcoming surgery and getting to advocate for herself in the classroom. But more than anything, helping her peers understand what was about to happen to her and why she was suddenly going to be gone for 8 weeks from the classroom. And so it was really great to see Miss Michelle and Miss Miley, who leads the program over there, come together around my daughter and her class and really support them as they stepped into this process, which is a really big ask for 3- and 4-year-olds. So thank you to them, and thank you for the amazing community that has supported her through that. And you'll all be happy to hear she's doing really well, though still at the Children's Hospital. She is recovering really well and can't wait to get back to see her peers. But then I want to highlight the community giving back, because even though I've been going through all this, I still had time to join the district fair for our high school learners and take part of PV High School. And it was really amazing to walk in and see so many STEM professionals giving up part of their weekend to come judge these science fair projects. It takes a lot of our time to be STEM professionals, and often we work on the weekends as we do on the weekdays. So to give up your weekend and come hear these science fair projects was amazing. I heard everything from an app that would help high school basketball players track their game points in different fashions, to a really amazing project that wanted to convert methane into energy. So really stellar projects. These students were competing to go on to the state level, and it was a really great opportunity to see our community come together and judge these students as many of them prepare to go to the state level. So thank you to the PV community, both those external to the community and those within the community. It's an amazing place to be and an amazing community to be a part of. So
Thank you, Mr. Pantera.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. Well, I went to a dance at Eagle Ridge. Okay, I was a chaperone, if you will. Very interesting to me how they do dances at the elementary level. Yeah, it's pretty interesting. Yeah, my granddaughter made a play date, or her mother did, big deal. But it got me to thinking of all things of the Wallace and Ladmo show. I don't know, anyone familiar with that show? No. Oh, good. Some people. That was a kids show that was here in the Valley, since 1954 to 1986 or something like that. I grew up on that stuff. And one of the characters there was a character called Gerald, Pat McMahon, right? He played that Gerald. Oh, you don't know. So, but he was there all the time, and he was billed as the private school brat. Okay, that was his character. He looked down on all these public school kids, and well, me and my friends were all public school kids, so he was like the villain of the show. What does it have to do with my daughter? Well, my granddaughter? Well, because I used to have this kind of maybe a negative opinion about private school kids until I actually met somebody who went to a private school. When I was at Saguaro High School, we did a lot of choral things with competitions, and I met some students from Brophy. And we're talking about schools. And these guys aren't brats at all. Okay, they're nice people. But one of the logistic things that they always talked about was like prom nights or any big thing they had to do. You know, you live in East Mesa, your date lives in West Glendale, and you got some buddies in North Scottsdale. You had to coordinate this all the time, and it made it very difficult. I thought, well, it's like my granddaughter. She's going to Sandpiper, right? But lives by Boulder Creek. Her friend lives by Shadow Mountain. They had to do all the calling and logistics. And as much as I like, school choice, I do like it, but it gets really tough. Me and my buddies, when we were growing up, if it's baseball season, we're all playing baseball. If it's basketball, we're all playing basketball. The logistics we had to do is ask Mom, can we go out and play? Because all the kids in the neighborhood we want to hang with were there. That's the coolest thing about public schools, if you can go to the one in your neighborhood, is because you meet other kids, you meet other families. Those families have barbecues together. They do things together. They go to the same Boy Scout clubs and same Little League teams, those kind of things. The public school becomes a hub, the glue that holds that neighborhood together, keeps that community together. I do miss that, and I don't know a solution to it because we do need to have school choice. That's an important thing. But nowadays, you got to reach out and find out, how does my granddaughter going to find out who the kids in the neighborhood are? Well, maybe I got to take her to Boulder Creek's events that the PTSA puts on, which they're having a glow party at the end of this month. So make sure be there, be square. So that's just something I wanted to talk about a little bit. Thank you. And I'm going to be at Indian Bend doing their Read Across America. If you want to hear the riveting story of King Big Good in the bathtub, you just drop on by and I'll read to you too. All right. That concludes my comments.
Thank you, Mr. Pantera. I want to welcome everybody who's here, rather full house. Thank you for joining us. Earlier this week, we had a study session on a couple topics, and I want to thank all of our staff for the hard work, but particularly Mrs. Berrigan and Dr. Davis for all of the information and conversation we were able to have. And earlier today, I joined in a meeting. It was actually an evaluation session for our IB program at North Canyon High School. I think I was there because we had to have a board member there. I don't think I contributed a lot, but I really want to give a shout out to Dr. Corson and Ms. Copen and Principal Katie Loker. I'm sorry, I've had no sleep and I just went like that. To all three of them for the information and the insights they provided. I've known about the IB program a long time, before I was ever on the board. And it's just fascinating to hear behind the scenes pieces and the curricular pieces and where it all fits in terms of the district. So I just want to thank everybody for the information. It was great. And with that, that concludes governing board statements. And next on the agenda is awards and recognitions.
Thank you, President Greenberg. Governing Board, Cabinet, and guests. At this time, I would like to invite the Governing Board to join me in front of the dais.
Good evening, President Greenberg, governing board members, members of cabinet, and attendees, both in person and virtual. Tonight, we have two recognitions to share with you. This evening, we'll be inviting our honorees to the front of the room for their recognition and group photo. So when I call your name or your school, please make your way to the front of the room. Our first honorees tonight were invited to be a part of the prestigious 2025 Arizona Music Education Association Elementary School and Junior High All-State Orchestra, and one of these recipients was invited to be part of the All-State Band. The AMEA has been promoting excellence in music education since 1939. Because we have so many recipients, we'll ask the students come up when I call your school's name. Copper Canyon. Desert Cove. Desert Trails. Fireside. Greyhawk. North Ranch. Pinnacle Peak Prep. Quail Run. Sky Crossing. Sonoran Sky. Wildfire. Desert Shadows Middle School. Mountain Trail Middle School. And Sunrise Middle School. Please give a round of applause to all of these musicians for this incredible accomplishment. Parents are more than welcome to take photos.
I think we just saw a lot of the parents stand up, but if there are parents, family members.
Tonight, we'd like to also honor 11 individuals who have maintained or newly achieved their National Board Certified Teacher status. NBCT is considered the pinnacle of recognition in education and represents an educator's diligence, dedication, and skill. This incredible accomplishment is not just a personal milestone for these teachers, but also a driving force for ongoing improvement in PV schools. Please put your hands together for, from Sonoran Sky Elementary School, Rachel Wyatt. From Desert Trails Elementary School, Misty Hoyt. From Echo Mountain Intermediate, Sarah Duvall. Also from Echo Mountain Intermediate, Jenna Sikelski. From North Canyon High School, Kara Diller. From Copper Canyon Elementary School, Anita Militello. From Pinnacle High School, Patience Sharp. From Desert Shadows Elementary School, Brian Cunningham, who's unable to be here. From the Paradise Valley High School, Margot Mercé. From within our Information Technology Department, Hannah Carnahan. And from North Canyon High School, Katie Hansen.
Picture of my mom. Hang on, Mom. One more. Thank you.
And that, President Greenberg, concludes this evening's awards and recognitions.
Thank you all. There's plenty of seats if anybody in the back wants to sit. So next on the agenda is superintendent comments. Dr. Reynolds.
Thank you, President Greenberg, Governing Board, Cabinet, and guests. I'd like to start this evening celebrating a birthday. We're not going to sing, but there's nothing better on your birthday than attending a Governing Board meeting.
I'm blessed to be here. Thank you.
So happy birthday, Mr. Drogi. In PV schools, we engage, inspire, and nurture students through high-quality instruction, meaningful educational opportunities, and dynamic learning experiences. One of those dynamic experiences in our district is our district STEAM initiative. PV schools is the hub of creativity and learning, and through our STEAM opportunities, we cultivate a passion for lifelong learning by connecting science, technology, engineering, arts, and math, and engaging in meaningful ways. One of the ways we engage our students and families is through the sights and sounds of STEAMposium Night. This year, we are putting a new twist on our two prominent district events. Attendees can enjoy ensemble performances, student artwork, science and engineering projects, and award ceremony, a business and industry expo, community partnership booths, and so much more. Join us at Shadow Mountain High School on March 1st to celebrate our spring STEAM event. For more information, please visit pvschools.net. Next week is National Public Schools Week. Join PV Schools in celebrating all the amazing things that happen each and every day around our schools and across the district. This week designed to highlight the teachers, staff, students, and parents who have chosen public education. Positive things happen in public school classrooms each day because of the caring professionals committed to serving students. Public education prepares students to succeed in an ever-changing world. The district knows families have a choice when it comes to their child's education, and we are grateful to every family who has made PV schools their first choice in education. Calling all PV schools community members, help make prom dreams come true by donating your gently used formal gowns, prom dresses, suits, tuxedos, jewelry, and accessories to the annual PVEA Prom Boutique. Beginning in March, our high school students will have several opportunities to shop from prom apparel and accessories at no cost to them. But in order to make this happen, we need your donations. In addition to clothing items, PVEA is accepting donations through their Amazon wish list, which can be found on the QR code up on the screen, as well as gift cards that will be raffled off. Donations can be dropped off Monday through Friday at the district office. And tonight, we have a special event. I am proud to highlight a point of pride in Paradise. Our career and technical education programs bring industry into the classroom, giving students a firsthand look at what highly desirable careers might look like. To walk us through a more in-depth presentation, I'd like to invite our Career and Technical Education Director, Melissa Molzon, to the podium.
Thank you, Dr. Reynolds. Good evening, President Greenberg, Governing Board, Dr. Reynolds, and Cabinet. Thank you so much for this opportunity to present tonight in celebration of CTE Month. Our Horizon High School students are very excited to present and share their experience in the marketing program and their accomplishments within DECA. Through those opportunities, they've developed valuable expertise in marketing, leadership, and teamwork, skills that are preparing them for real-world business challenges and their post-secondary pathway. Through these stories, we hope that it highlights the impact of CTE education and demonstrates the importance of programs like ours in shaping future leaders. Please join me in welcoming Colton Weedy, Lamia Pamick, Sharias Aurora, Bella Rao, and their amazing teacher, Suzanne Mirasola.
Thank you once again so much for having us here and allowing us to speak. With me to my right is our our VPs of Finance through DECA, Shreyas Aurora and Bella Rao, and to my left is our VP of Community Service, Lamia, and my name's Colton Weedy. I'm the VP of DECA at Horizon High School, and we just wanted to thank the board for their continuous support of CTE programs and DECA as a whole. It provides many opportunities for kids like me, like Lamia, like Bella, and like Shreyas to further their business skills for life beyond high school, such as college and the workplace. The marketing classes that are offered at our school also create an environment for us to learn all sorts of skills that are crucial in life that go beyond just the high school learning and go into serious life skills that are very important.
Good evening. I'd like to say again, my name is Lamia Pamick. I'm the Vice President of Community Service. We'd like to first start off that we are so proud to announce that this year we will be receiving diamond level status for the second year in a row. We have also, thank you. We have also received gold status for our chapter as well as gold status for our school store, which is DECA's highest honors. We would just like to thank you for your continued support through everything. We wouldn't have been able to do this without the CTE program and DECA in general. We are so proud of our accomplishments and we cannot wait to see where it's going to take us in our future endeavors. And we just like to thank you again so much for having us here to talk to you guys. Thank you.
Thank you and congratulations on diamond status. Next on the agenda are items for approval. Excuse me, the first item is acceptance of the 2024 audit reports issued on December 11th, 2024 for the 2023-24 fiscal year. Mrs. Bergen.
Thank you, President Greenberg, Dr. Reynolds, and governing board members. This is the culmination of one of my favorite things to present on to the governing board. We have staff that work incredibly hard throughout the fiscal year, planning and preparing the fiscal year prior, closing out the fiscal year after. It's really ultimately more than a year's worth of work, and many, many people who work incredibly hard on this. So I need that large on my screen, please. It's very tiny right now. I can't see it. There we go. Okay. So the objective for the presentation is to review the purpose, scope, and results of the annual financial audit. And we will review the requirements of our audit, the process that we go through, the reports that are issued, as well as the final results of the audit. This is a quick glimpse of, frankly, only some of the dates that we experienced throughout our budget year. The fiscal year begins July 1st, it ends June 30th, but as I've mentioned, there's planning before that year starts that we're even talking about in November, December of the year prior. We have an encumbrance period that goes through August 30th each year, and then we're experiencing the actual audit process after that as well. And then reports issued as mentioned previously. For audit requirements, Arizona Revised Statute 15914 requires school districts with M&O budgets in excess of $2 million to have a completion of the USFR, the Uniform System of Financial Records Compliance Questionnaire. And so we undergo that, 170 some questions. In addition to that, if we have more than $750,000 in federal revenues, we undergo a federal single audit. So there's really two components in regard to that for our audit. As a reminder, in the spring of 2021, the legislature passed that the governing boards must publicly take a roll call vote. And so Ms. Chisholm will take you all through a roll call vote at the end of the presentation. And then finally, for requirements, we upload these files to the Arizona Department of Education public website, as well as provide a copy of it to the county superintendent's office. With the process for audit, with our external auditors, we begin by procuring their services through a competitive proposal process, and the fiscal year 24 audit was the third year of that contract. After the audit year begins, they ask us to send the financial data, and we send them that general ledger, which is a transaction and accounting of every single financial transaction that occurs within the district. The auditors then send their fieldwork request based off of what they see in the general ledger, and they ask for samples of various types of pieces of financial transactions within the district. We prepare that documentation, send that to the auditors ahead of time, and then they come here. They used to come here for a week in the late summer and then a week again in the fall timeframe, but over the last few years, we've gotten them to come just 2 to 3 days in the end of the summer timeframe, and then just another 2 to 3 days usually in the fall timeframe. And that's due to our staff being prepared ahead of time with all of the documentation to make things run more smoothly for our auditors. The auditors then complete their field work, and then that process sort of repeats again in terms of additional field work requests sent to us, a little bit more documentation on some things sent to the auditor, and then they come back out again in the fall timeframe as mentioned. The audit reports we issue, there are a few of them. We do a communication to governance that you've seen, the annual comprehensive financial report, which is the big 140-some page report that you've also seen. The single audit reporting package, that as a reminder is the requirement because we receive more than the $750,000 limit from federal funds. And then the Uniform System of Financial Records Compliance Questionnaire that the Arizona Auditor General prepares for us. In the communication to governance letter, it was identified that there were no difficulties encountered in the performance of the audit, no disagreements with management, that the management has provided all of the required representations, and then Heinfeld and Meach, who is our external auditors, complied with their independence audit requirements. With the annual comprehensive financial report, we have an unmodified, or what is more commonly known as a clean opinion, the best opinion that you can get in the independent auditor's report. And some of the components of the annual comprehensive financial report include the management's discussion and analysis, the government-wide financial statements, the fund financial statements, important notes to those financial statements, in a statistical section. With the single audit reporting package, it was noted that we performed in accordance with government auditing standards, and we had no significant deficiencies or material weaknesses identified in our statements or in our internal controls. And then additionally, for the required uniform guidance, it was stated in there that, in our opinion, Paradise Valley Unified School District complied in all material respects with the compliance requirements referred to above, that could have material and direct effect on each of its major federal programs for the year ended June 30th, 2024. Those are important statements for us to receive to ensure with our community that we are following all of the required guidelines and requirements. With the uniform, excuse me, with the Uniform System of Financial Records Compliance Questionnaire, that is showing our compliance with state statutes. And there are a number of areas reviewed, but there are about 10 of them listed on here. These are the primary areas that we review. I won't list all of them, but they are there on the slide. The next two slides, obviously, it's a little bit smaller print, but tried to get them on the two slides here in terms of the compliance questionnaire findings that we received. There are 18 sections total that are reviewed with 171 questions. For the district this year, 11 items are listed as no. We don't like any no items, but there generally always are going to be some no items. And this is the second page of those findings. And just to put some things in perspective, with the 11 minor non-compliance items that were noted, the average number of findings for school districts in the state of Arizona continues to be about 18 to 20, which would put them at an 80 to 89% or a high B. For us, we exceed that with 94% of our USFR compliance questionnaire answered with a yes or an NA. Additionally, I just wanted to mention this year the financial risk analysis. The Arizona Auditor General in recent years has put together this analysis of the most current data available for 7 risk categories listed. There's the receivership, so if a school district is in receivership, change in weighted student count, that is red on this slide because we do have the change in weighted student count that they consider would put us into high financial risk. That's that declining enrollment that we have. In addition, budget limit reserves and financial position are considered. We have a red box again around capital monies redirected to operations. That's the 90% of the district additional assistance that we put into M&O. They consider that a financial risk. I do think that that misses some context. In our district, we also have a district additional assistance override and bond that allows us to take care of our capital needs and allows us to free up that DAA into M&O. And it's allowable by the state in state statute for you to put up to 100% of DAA into your M&O budget. And then 2 other reasons for financial risk are small school budget limit adjustment. We would never have that. We're not a small school. And then a frozen tax rate, and we are far from a frozen tax rate. With our audit results, those reports were issued on time in order to meet the Arizona School Business Official International and GFOA, which is the Government Finance Officers Association submission deadlines. So we expect to receive those awards again, and we've been receiving those awards for 20+ years. I'm very proud of that. In addition, that will meet our continuing bond disclosures deadline of February 1st. Just as a reminder, that is information we send out to our bondholders, people who have purchased our bonds, to show them that we are meeting all of our financial requirements. It's very important. And all our required reports have already been issued to our oversight agencies before the deadline of March 31st, which includes the Arizona Auditor General, the County School Superintendent, the Federal Clearinghouse, and then, as mentioned previously, Arizona Department of Education. Access to our financial reports, not just this report, but other years' reports and our budget information, along with other pieces of information, are available on our website. And just wanted to remind people of that important part of transparency that we have within school districts. As well, I've listed here some additional resources if anybody needs to reference back to any budget reports or classroom dollar reports, bond information, all of that is available as well. With that, it's important for me to say thank you to some very important people. Kathy DeStefano, our internal auditor, Vanessa Shapiro, our former director of finance, who has still helped us out as we transition into our new director of finance, Mr. Connor Hutchinson. Eva Kayas, our director of purchasing, Rob Dethridge, who helps with our average daily membership, everyone on our finance team, everyone on our purchasing team, technology, there's technology components of our audit. Our human resources team helps, and there are even components where the schools have portions of the audit that they are responsible for. And I thank all of them for helping us be successful in this area. And with that, I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
Thank you, Mrs. Berrigan. Mr. Pantera, may I have a motion to approve the fiscal year 2023-24 audit reports as presented?
So moved.
Does any board member have any comments or questions? Mr. Pantera?
Well, you mentioned the finance, purchasing, technology, human resources. Ballpark, how many people is that? Because you can't list them all.
100?
Yeah, it's a big
Well,
team.
I don't, even when you include this, it's probably more than that, more like 150 when you include all of the people at the schools
I want
that are
people to
responsible.
understand, this is, these few words represent a lot of people. That's why they're not listed here. And
Sure does.
You do a great job, by the way.
Thank you.
Excellent.
Does anybody else have any questions, comments? Mrs. Christensen?
Mrs. Bergen was kind enough to answer a couple of my questions that I had, but I feel like I should ask them anyway, just in the spirit of just allowing the public to know what's going on with our finances. So I appreciate this because I don't pretend to know this. I took once in my college, you don't want to know, like 5 decades ago, I went to college for business and IT. And so I was wondering, at the top of page 29, talks about support services, and I'm talking about the big report, not the small audit report, how it's increased. And so I was just curious why the expenses went up $11.4 million while our instruction expenditures only went up $3 million. And you did give a very thorough answer, but if you could just highlight some of those for us.
Yes, President Greenberg, Mrs. Christensen, and Governing Board, I'll actually go ahead and read what I did share with the board because I think it's an important question. It's a unique year in what occurred, and I don't want to miss any of those points. So what I shared was Support Services Administration for fiscal year 24 includes the Quasmayer, and I still don't know if I say it right, lawsuit liability of $15.7 million year over year. There was actually a decrease in Support Services Administration expenses if we exclude that liability amount of $15 million. Compared to fiscal year 23, Support Service Administration costs actually declined by almost $4.3 million, bringing the total down to about $24.5 million. So it's important to remember that the Quasmeyer is recorded as a liability on our financial statements as well. It was on page 40, but it didn't impact our actual budget, meaning we didn't have to find a place to move other expenses because we had this expense. It just affects cash. So this was simply a tax collection transaction, meaning that it was a cash flow item that didn't affect budget capacity. So due to GASB, our Governmental Accounting Standards Board requirements, and the USFR coding, the liability is included under expenses. And our auditors confirmed with GASB that this is the correct place for the Quasmeyer liability. Our auditors don't even run into anything like this often. This was a once in a lifetime situation that occurred within the state of Arizona. And per the USFR, judgments against the district are coded to Object Code 6820 and must use function 2310 admin. So that's why you see it in Support Services admin on page 29, page 40, page 106, and 107. When you get further into the ACFR, there's a note on page 107 that reads, Support Services Administration were higher than normal in fiscal year 23-24 due to the claims and judgment related to the Quasmeyer versus Maricopa County class action judgment. This ties to the figure on page 106 of the ACFR, which then ties back to page 29. Additionally, you will see the amount tied to liabilities, claims, and judgments payable under the general column on page 40, which is the balance sheet of governmental funds. And so all of that explains why it appears there, why the amount is 11 million more than last year. But I just want to make a note that in anticipation of the classroom spending report that comes out from the Office of the Auditor General in March, my initial calculations, and they always change a few things, but based off of where I think they will move any expenditures, our administrative costs will decrease from 7.8% of our total expenditures in fiscal year 23 to 7.3% in fiscal year 24. So that would be a 0.5% reduction in administrative spending.
Mrs. Christensen.
Yeah, thank you for that thorough explanation. I do want to just correct, because initially you said Quasmeyer was statewide. It was only Maricopa. The second time you said Maricopa, I just want to add that it was not a statewide loss. It was only for the Maricopa County, the lawsuit. And then the second question was on page 132. It's similar. It seems like we've added administrative buildings and square footages as compared to 2015 as our enrollment has decreased. So it appears in the table that we're using 400% more square footage for administration while our enrollment has decreased 18.6% from 2015. And so you were kind enough to explain the reason for that, but I think it's also important to share that with the other board members. And
thank you, Mrs. Christensen, President Greenberg, and Governing Board. As shared with you previously as well, we've closed schools between 2015 and 2024. This doesn't actually include the 3 schools that we just closed last year because they didn't close until the end of the school year. When a school's closed and no longer used for instructional purposes, it becomes administrative space. So even if a building is vacant, even if a building is being used for a lease or some other purpose within the district, it's considered administrative space. That doesn't necessarily correlate to having administrators in that space. It's not the same thing.
Thank you. Does anybody else have any questions?
Just a
Mr.
little
Pantera?
one. Just a little question. You talked about the external auditors, requesting samples. Now, are those random samples or you guys get to pick those? How's that done?
We do not get to pick
I
them.
didn't think so,
They
yeah.
are random samples.
Okay, thank you.
Mrs. Bergen, I have a question. I apologize because I didn't ask this prior, so if you don't have the answer, it's okay. I'm
Okay.
sure you will find out. On the financial risk analysis,
Mhm.
where we were red boxed on the capital monies redirected operations, what level does the state, at what level would the state remove the box?
I think if I will verify this, so don't hold me to it.
No.
But if I remember correctly, on almost all of those measures, anything within a 5% change, or for example, with enrollment decline, they wouldn't care about an enrollment increase, but enrollment decline of more than 5% over the prior year, you get a red box around it. With the DAA into M&O, I don't know at what percentage threshold they put that in a financial risk position, but I'll verify that and get back with you.
Okay, thank you. Does anybody else, excuse me, have any other questions or comments? Seeing none, Mrs. Chisholm, may I have a roll call vote, please?
Mrs. Christensen,
Aye.
Mr. Pantera,
Aye.
Mrs. Greenberg,
Aye.
Dr. Lim,
Aye.
Ms. Wani.
Aye.
Thank you. There are no nays, no abstentions, so the motion passes unanimously. Next on the agenda is request for approval to update CTDS numbers and information for compliance with ARS 15-1042B. Dr. Reynolds.
Thank you, President Greenberg, Governing Board. As we discussed in our study session, we are working to relocate our James P. Lee programming to the former Sunset Canyon Elementary School. And we will need to update the CTDS numbers that correlate with those programs. So we're recommending. I would like to say that based on the feedback from the governing board on Tuesday, we have one slight change. It doesn't impact the motion or it doesn't impact the item, but we are re-examining the move of Little Cubs to Foothills Elementary as requested in the study session.
Thank you, Dr. Reynolds. Mr. Pantera, may I please have a motion to approve CTDS updates, including a new CTDS for James P. Lee Early Childhood Learning Center, reassignment of the current CTDS to Arrowhead Elementary, and retirement of Sunset Canyon and Arrowhead CTDS numbers to comply with ARS 15-1042B as presented.
So moved.
Does any board member have any questions or comments? Dr. Lim?
I just want to clarify, just so we have this. So my understanding, at least in how we read things, was bullet point directed there. Ms. Berrigan. So bullet point 3 has us potentially changing the address of Little Cubs to Foothills, but because we're re-examining that, is my understanding that that will not be part of this motion, or is this still something that's part of this motion?
So it's not, Dr. Lim, President Greenberg, board members, it's not actually part of the motion as it's listed on there as part of the background information.
Okay.
As such, we have the ability to hold on doing that until we make a final decision about where Little Cups will be located.
Okay, perfect. Thank you for that clarification.
You're welcome.
Does anybody else have any questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Any abstentions? Motion passes unanimously. Next on the agenda is request for approval to update the PV Online CTDS 0702692999 address for the 2024-25 school year and retire former Desert Springs Preparatory School CTDS number. Dr. Reynolds.
Ditto. No, it's the same. We've talked about this in our study session. We need to update our CTDS numbers to reflect the programming that's in the facility.
I'm going to go through that again. Mr. Pantera, may I please have a motion for approval to update the PV Online CTDS 0702692999 to 6010 East Tacoma Drive, Scottsdale, Arizona 85254, former location of Desert Springs Preparatory School for the 2024-25 school year, and retire former Desert Springs Preparatory School CTDS number as presented.
I'm sorry, what did you say? No, so moved. So moved.
Once more with feeling. Any board member have any questions or comments? Mrs. Christensen.
So I do understand retiring the CTDS numbers are, and I just have a point of clarification. Do the CTDS numbers follow the address? Is that what it is? So, or is it whenever something retires, it just goes away and it goes to a different code? I just want to understand that a little better because I thought I understood, and then the more I hear about it, I still confused. So.
Yes, Mrs. Christensen, President Greenberg, board members, it can vary depending upon the situation. Certainly, if an address change occurs, it may require a CTDS change, as it does in this case. Generally, a CTDS number follows the school. So CTDS stands for county. Maricopa is the county, 07. Type, type is 02, which indicates we are a unified district. District, which is 69. That's why you see Paradise Valley Unified School District number 69 on all our yellow buses. And then school, so school number. So then we have each unique identifying number for every school. So generally, it's going to follow the school.
Does any, Ms. Wani?
Is there any within the statute requirement to do it within a certain time frame? So for example, if PV Online's been operating, at Desert Springs, is it like required you do it within a certain amount of time? And or if it changes again, let's say at some point in, the near future, just in thinking about when these items would have to come up for approval again if they needed to.
President Wani, President Greenberg, Governing Board, did I say President Wani? Excuse me. Mrs. Wani. My apologies. It's been a long day. The answer to that is anytime within the school year is considered acceptable. However, when some of this is cleanup from prior year closures, as we've explained to the board. And so there isn't necessarily a penalty, or it's not like we didn't receive funding for something. So it is important to clean those things up if they aren't correct. So technically we could still do that as we are in this case. But generally you want to do that within the school year that the change has occurred. And so we're well within the timeline for PV Online.
Okay, thank you. And then obviously wanting to make sure that once you make those changes, like everybody's good and it's going to kind of stay that way for a while before you make a change like this.
I sure hope so.
Does anybody else have any questions, comments? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed, say nay. Any abstentions?
I abstain from this one.
Motion passes 4 ayes and 1 abstention. Next on the agenda is consideration to approve purchase from current district contract 2315 PVJOC for additional restrooms at Sunset Canyon Elementary. Dr. Reynolds.
Thank you, Governing Board. Ms. Berrigan?
Thank you, Dr. Reynolds, President Greenberg, and governing board members. This is to accommodate the move of the Sun Kids students to Sunset Canyon. I will just add in here that if the district does decide to move the Little Cubs to Sunset Canyon as well, there would be an additional cost of approximately $230,000 that was shared with the governing board, or maybe still needs to be shared with the governing board. That would be added to this, so that would have to come back to the governing board, I believe, at that time. I think we could have an answer to that hopefully before the next board meeting.
Thank you. We have one public comment card. Nicole Klutwick, you will have 3 minutes.
Hello, my name is Nicole Klutwick. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. President Greenberg, uh, Superintendent Reynolds, uh, school board members and cabinet. Very, very, very quick. I just think this might be a little premature. If we don't know exactly who is moving to that school yet, it seems like we should know. Is this going to be just Sun Kids? Is this just going to be Little Cubs? Is this going to be both programs? I thought that I heard some some of those details have not been finalized. If I've misunderstood, forgive me for my interruption and slowing down the meeting. But if those things have not been finalized, it seems premature to be building new bathrooms for children who we don't know exactly who's going to be there yet. So thank you.
Mr. Pantera, may I please have a motion to approve purchase from current district contract 2315 PVJOC for additional restrooms at Sunset Canyon Elementary as presented?
So moved.
Does any board member have questions or comments? Mr. Pantera?
Well, it's my understanding that we're approving this, but if changes are made, we don't actually have to put them in, right?
Correct. And Mr. Pantera, just to clarify, we do know that we are moving Sun Kids there this summer.
Okay.
It's just what we don't know at this point, based off of the feedback we heard from board members in the study session from this Tuesday, whether or not we may potentially also move Little Cubs to that campus, which would be the additional $230,000 that I mentioned.
Sure, but again, if we didn't
If-
need to, we wouldn't.
Yeah.
Just because we passed it doesn't mean you have to actually do it if there's a change.
Correct.
That's all I'm asking. Okay,
Yep.
thank you.
Thank you.
Dr. Lim?
I was just wondering, I did not send this comment in ahead of time. Do you know how many bathrooms do currently exist on that campus between the preschool and the kindergarten rooms? And because I know we're going above and beyond to add additional bathrooms because these are all potty training learners. So
Is Dr. Davis here? He is here. 4. There 4 exist? Okay, 4 exist.
Does anybody else have any questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Oh, I'm sorry, Mrs. Christensen?
So for the plan to move these little preschoolers to Sunset Canyon, do we know how long they may be there? Or is this the new permanent home, or is it a temporary move? Once again,
Yeah,
I know you've probably told me 15 times. I just can't remember. Once I hit menopause, I just like things
Oh,
don't
okay.
stick in my brain. So I apologize.
permanent.
Permanent.
Yeah.
Okay.
Are there any other questions, comments? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
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 All those opposed, say nay.
Nay.
Any abstentions? Motion passes 4-1. Next on the agenda is acceptance of gifts and donations. We have many. I'd like to review just a few. Odyssey Operations gave $1,000 to Greenway Middle School for the site discretionary fund. At Pinnacle High School, Thomas Hazer gave $3,500 for the Spirit Line, and Stryker gave just under $10,000 for the Spirit Line. And for Sun Kids Preschool at JPL, the PV Schools Education Foundation provided a mobility rider valued at $1,254 and change. So thank you again to all of our donors. We appreciate your generosity. And Mr. Pantera, may I please have a motion to accept gifts and donations?
So moved.
Do any board members have any comments or questions? Seeing none? Oh, Mrs. Christensen?
Yes, I would like to know a ballpark as, we are on, sorry, I'm gonna blame menopause again. I'm one ahead of you. None at this point.
Okay, so you're good on this one. Okay. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, please say nay. Any abstentions? Motion passes unanimously. Sorry. Next, we are going to what was originally consent agenda item F6. Sorry, I've got this up here. G6.
F6 to G6.
F6 to, right. So what I said was originally F6, now G6. And that is consideration and approval of Business Operations Department Administrative Certified ESP employee travel request. Any, Dr. Reynolds or Mrs. Bergen, would you? No presentation. Mr. Pantera may have a motion to approve the Business Operations Department Administrative Certified ESP employee travel request.
So moved.
Does any board member have a comment or question? Mrs. Christensen.
What's the estimated cost for each individual to attend this conference?
Mrs. Christensen, President Greenberg, Governing Board, I believe this was shared with the board, but maybe not. So this conference will cost approximately $525 per attendee. That includes the conference registration, the hotel stay, all of the meals that are included. It's actually a very inexpensive conference. Yeah.
Why do we have so many individuals from similar departments attending? It seems that it's a bit redundant, and while I understand that we like to train our employees, this is administration, this isn't training for educators in the classroom, so I'm just curious as to why there are so many people attending this conference.
Mrs. Christensen, President Greenberg, Governing Board, I believe that it's important to provide professional development for support staff as well. There are 7 different tracks offered at this conference that cover various areas, and that allows staff to choose various topics that relate to their roles. And it's not necessarily that they will stick to their track the entire time. We have people in our facilities department who may be interested or most receptive to something on a facilities track during one session and then may move to a purchasing track for the next section because that's also relevant to their job. And so we provide this opportunity to all the people that it will support and be relevant for, particularly at the inexpensive price that it offers for them.
Does anybody else have any questions, comments? Okay. Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed say nay.
Nay.
Any abstentions? Motion passes 4-1. Next on the agenda is call to the public. Please turn your attention to the video monitors.
Call to the public is about to convene. This portion of today's meeting allows the public the opportunity to address the governing board. Although state law does not require that the governing board hold a call to the public, the Paradise Valley Unified School District and its board have chosen to do so because we believe it's important to hear about concerns and issues from our community. While call to the public is not designed to be a discussion, the board is here to listen. Due to Arizona open meeting law, the governing board cannot respond to, discuss, or take any action on items brought up during this time. However, staff members may be directed to get back to you and address individual concerns. As a reminder, the point of this and every board meeting is to accomplish the business at hand, and to be able to do so in an open and collaborative way. All in attendance are expected to observe meeting rules, as well as rules of politeness and decorum, so that we may serve as an example to our students that issues can be discussed in a respectful and civil manner.
Thank you. Tonight we have 8 people who have submitted comment cards prior to the start of the meeting, so each speaker will have 3 minutes for remarks. As a reminder, as we just said, we ask that you please direct your comments to the board. Please state your first and last name when you come to the podium, and I think we've got a couple here. You only gave us your first name, so definitely state first and last when you come to the podium. Our first speaker is Nicole Klutwick, and she'll be followed by Tiffany Ruiz.
Hello, thank you again. My name is Nicole Klutwick. Thank you, President Greenberg, School Board, Cabinet, Superintendent Reynolds. I just wanted to talk about the fact that we just closed 3 schools it was official just July 1st, I believe. So this fall was the first time these schools were closed. We went through what was supposed to be a long and very detailed and robust process to determine which schools should be closed. And one of those determining factors was supposed to be the condition of the schools. It is very, very disheartening to find out that Indian Bend is in such a state of disrepair. And I don't understand it, frankly. Like, I especially don't understand how we have knob and tube wiring there when that was supposed to be done in the 1940s and this building was built in the 1970s. But regardless, I don't understand how we could have a facility in such disrepair and it was not considered for closure. We would have skipped all of this. Boundaries could have been done in such a way. I just don't understand. And I think that the lack of public disclosure during that process, the lack of open meetings during the deliberation process, apparently there were public, well, not public, there were meetings done to get public opinion polling, which Mrs. Berrigan had conducted. I don't know if any other committee meeting members attended those or those results just got reported back. The lack of visibility and transparency is really sad, and especially with this result. We have a facility that appears to be in emergency status. And I would like to ask you to correct that in this process. You guys are moving a lot of kids around, and this also seems to be not nearly as transparent as it could be. We haven't seen building inspection reports for Indian Bend. We haven't seen them for James P. Lee. I attended the study session at James P. Lee where multiple school board members said that building needs to be torn down. It is in horrible disrepair. We wouldn't want our kids there. And now we're moving kids from Indian Bend, which is in disrepair, to another facility in disrepair. The whole process just needs to be much more open. And I would like your consideration for that. Thank you.
Next is Tiffany Ruiz, followed by Diane Neiman.
It's Jay Tiffany Ruiz, sorry.
My apologies.
You're fine. I am here today. I just want to thank you guys for allowing me the time to speak, governing board. I wanted to come back and give you guys an update on my statement made on November 21st about Indian Bend, the smells that have been ongoing up to 10 days ago. I understand that in the previous meeting that we had this week, the community discussion or the board's discussion, that it was stated that our facilities department moves very quickly. I have been gaslit numerous times by this department. I've been told that it's my fragrance that I'm wearing that smells like sewage. I've been told that, or my other workers have been told that it's their lotion or it's other things. We've complained and complained and complained. Finally, after my November thing, we had a contractor come in on December 3rd. That contractor found that there was sewer gas or the smell was being leaked into the walls. And so they ran a pipe to go out a different way so it wouldn't be sucked back into the building. Within that time frame, that was fixed by on January 9th. Sorry, we had a city inspector come out because we had no hot water at the school for 2 days, or in our kitchen, which is, I don't know how that happened, but the hot water heater was not fixed until the 15th. We had no hot water in our school from the 9th to the 15th. I don't think that that's fast. We also then, when the inspector came, they discovered that the kitchen sink wasn't up to code. That was replaced. When that was replaced on the 18th or the 19th, our facilities crew then drilled a hole into the brand new pipe that the contractor put in, releasing those fumes back into the kitchen. I notified facilities about this. Facilities continued to come out. I was even yelled at by one of our facilities members and told that our kitchen was not being replaced. They've already spent millions of dollars on this kitchen. I advised them on the 21st that the smell was coming from the sink that was recently installed. They come in, they tell me that it's not. Finally, I believe it was on February 10th, the smell was still coming, and then by the 11th, they fixed it. Now we don't have the smell because they've fixed it, but what's concerning is that we paid a contractor to come fix this, and then our facilities crew damaged the brand new work that was just done. With that being said, I would like the board, the district, to review this department, as I asked before, on their knowledge of things. I understand that we're not paying a lot, so maybe that's why, but yeah, we need to reassess that.
Next is Diane Neiman, and like I said, we've got some that I don't have last names, followed by Laura. Ms. Neiman.
Yes, I just wanted to point out that we're talking about funds a lot here tonight, and it might be important to say that it's based, a lot of the funds are based on property taxes, and I received last year's tax bill, and I was shocked. My tax bill went up 34%. 34%. So I called, the Maricopa County Property Tax Center, the treasurer's office, and they said, well, it's because there's a school board bond issue that raised your taxes 34%. That's why it went up. So if there are 6 or 7 vacant schools, I wonder why we don't sell those schools instead of making more administrative space, so that we could offset maybe people that are retired like me to not get a tax increase by 34%. And I'd like to make a comment regarding Tony Pantera's public statement. He said that the public school is the hub, the glue that holds the neighborhood together. I'd just like to point out that a lot of people don't have children in school. Not that I don't recommend people going to schools, but not necessarily just homeschooling. But I will say that this was founded on a Christian country, with the 10 Commandments being the basis. And if we listen to the 10 Commandments, do not kill, and all those things, it'd be good for the kids to be trained about that. And in the Revolutionary War, one of the most important groups was called the Black Robe Regiment, and those were actually pastors that were leading their own congregations into battle, because they really felt that the freedom would make them to be able to continue to talk about Christianity rather than other things that England had in mind. And also a lot of the original books used in our schools, like in Pennsylvania and in Washington, D.C., founding books were, the curriculum was used was the Bible. So I just like to say, as a Christian, that I really think the church might be a very good place to have as your hub of a community again. That would be my suggestion. And I wonder about, again, selling some of these schools that are just administrative space, and maybe not also leasing some of the schools for $1. That's what I understand, that some of the schools have been leased out to different project people for $1 versus selling that to offset the costs of the schools. So, thank you.
Next is Laura, followed by Sherry.
President Greenberg, governing board members, and Superintendent Dr. Reynolds. My name is Laura Ross. I'm here because I am deeply invested in PVUSD succeeding at all levels, from the board to the superintendent, admin, the newest group of little kids who have joined Paradise Valley Unified School District as I did as a kindergartner in this district over 50 years ago. So I have a long history, and my family has a long history with this district, and I couldn't be more proud, which is why I chose this district for my child. My daughter proudly attends Horizon High School. She's a junior. She's interested in a career in life science, and I'm very concerned that her options are being very, very limited, increasingly in science. So I just want to talk about what's going on at Horizon High School. Their bus to Paradise Valley High School to participate in healthcare and all the other services that are offered there is no longer available. Anatomy and physiology will not be offered at Horizon High School next year because of students who have not signed up for the option that's available with anatomy and physiology. AP Bio is in danger of not being offered at Horizon High School next year, which deeply concerns me. So her options are very, very limited. There is a teacher who deeply wants to teach AP Bio next year, who's teaching it this year, and J.R. Travis. She taught dual enrollment when my daughter was a freshman, and a lot of parents have a plan for their kids to take her freshman level, which my daughter did, take college level. She was fortunate enough to be able to take dual enrollment as a freshman. And so J.R. Travis teaches AP Bio, and many of us have a plan for our children who want to go into life science to take that combo, which really sets them up for success in the future. So I'm very concerned that this AP Bio class is not going to be offered, and that an opportunity for our highest performing students would be taken away, along with many other options that they have had to study science. And as we know, it's, Dr. Reynolds talked about the STEAM opportunity, which is wonderful. I love to see those opportunities for kids. And I hope that the district continues to offer those. So the current teacher has an 80%.
Thank you. Your
Passing rate.
time is up.
Thank you.
Thanks. Next is Sherry, followed by Christy McGrady.
My name's Sherry Boone, and I'm actually here with the same concerns for life sciences at Horizon High School. Also, I have a daughter that goes to Horizon. She's a sophomore. Also took dual enrollment biology as a freshman, and she plans to major in biomedical engineering. Her goal in life is to create the first fully functional internal spinal replacement. And she is currently in a track that, according to her counselor, she's the only kid in the Paradise Valley School District that is doing this program, that it's basically in partnership with ASU, where she's taking ASU classes, but then still getting credit at Horizon for them as well. But it's being counted as concurrent enrollment versus dual enrollment or anything like that, which is fine, except she has the limit of 1 credit per core subject. So because, as is common knowledge at Horizon, chemistry teachers are questionable at Horizon right now. She took chemistry through ASU this year. So she has to take her next 2 years of science at Horizon. She wanted to take AP Bio next year. She's now coming home and telling me how she's hearing from the current teacher that if Travis is not the AP Bio teacher next year, this current teacher that is slated to be in a class discussion, there was a discussion about people with epilepsy. My daughter has epilepsy. My husband has epilepsy. And it was a statement made in this class. This teacher told these kids that epilepsy is not a neurological disorder, but it is a curse from the gods. This woman should not be teaching science at all, but should not be in front of our students. And I chose Paradise Valley School District when we still lived over on the other side of I-17. I would drive my kids over here. We've now moved over here because of the schools. I have a kid that's in 6th grade at Desert Shadows Elementary School that will be headed to Horizon, cannot wait to get there. We have to have these sciences. We have to save this. There is no way that you can have a journey of excellence without actually offering the excellence. And our kids need quality science programs with quality science instructors that actually want to be there and want to be teaching the proven science, not their personal beliefs. Thank you.
Next is Christy McGrady, followed by Ashley Rayborn.
Good evening, President Greenberg, governing board members, and cabinet. My name is Christy McGrady. I'm a teacher at Indian Bend Elementary School. I'm also a proud parent of 3 students in the district and a product of the district myself. Very grateful that I get to call this place home. I stand before you this evening to express our deepest gratitude to the incredible members of our school board and your unwavering commitment to the future of our students at Indian Bend. Rebuilding a school is no small feat. It will take vision, leadership, and an immense amount of hard work. I know your mission is to provide our students with a safe, inspiring, and state-of-the-art space for our students to learn. We know that this journey will not be easy, but we stand behind you. We are very grateful that JPL is being considered for our temporary relocation. We are very lucky that it's so close to home and will continue to allow our families to stay within the same community that they know and love. We know there will be obstacles along the way, such as packing and unpacking teachers' classrooms, logistical hurdles, and countless hours spent in meetings and planning sessions. I know that during this, the school board will never lose sight of what truly matters: the students, the teachers, and the entire community that this school serves. When Indian Bend is finished being rebuilt, it will be a space where young minds will be shaped, where friendships will be formed, and where the future will be built one lesson, one discovery, and one achievement at a time. On behalf of the teachers, the parents, the students, and the entire community, we thank you.
Next is Ashley Rayborn, followed by Michelle Parker Rock, who will be our last speaker.
Good evening, President Greenberg, Governing Board, and Cabinet. My name is Ashley Rayborn. I am an employee and parent at Indian Bend. Thank you for the opportunity to stand in front of you and express my gratitude for considering a rebuild of Indian Bend. I speak for many when I say that this was the best news we could have received. At the last board meeting, Ms. Berrigan did an amazing job listing the reasons why Indian Bend is ready for a new campus. As a parent and employee, I cannot tell you how much it means to know that our children, along with so many, my own children, along with so many others, will now have the opportunity to learn and grow in a new and an improved campus. I also would like to thank you for considering the temporary location being the current James P. Lee campus, as many of our families have reached out to express the importance of Indian Bend's temporary location remaining within the community. Thank you.
And last is Michelle Parker Rock.
Good evening, Governing Board, Superintendent, members of the board, and Cabinet. Thank you for providing this opportunity for me to express myself and hopefully on behalf of others who are like-minded. John Boyne, the author of The Boy in the Striped Pajamas, a novel about the friendship of 2 youths during a troubling time period in history, said this about the word home. A home is not a building or a street or a city or something so artificial as bricks and mortar. A home is where one's family is. Boyne got me thinking about the word family. And of course, the traditional definition came to mind, as I'm sure it does to yours. Yes, a family is the people we live with. But a family can be much more than that. It can be the people we depend on and the people who depend on us. It can be the people we love and the people who love us. It can be the people who have our backs and the people who we have our backs for. It can also be the people who support us and the people who we support. And it can be the people we teach and the people who teach us. In the wise words of Jane Howard, an American journalist, an educator, and the author of the Margaret Mead A Life biography, she says, call it a clan. You can call it a network, call it a tribe, or call it a family. Whatever you or I or we call it, whoever we are, we need one. We appreciate your understanding that Indian Bend is a family with great traditions and more to come. We are a family of students, parents, guardians, aunties, uncles, grandmas, grandpas, and siblings, many who have already attended Indian Bend themselves. We are a family that works together, plays together, laughs together, cries together, learns together, and of course, we grow together. We need each other. And we need to keep our amazingly wonderful Indian Bend Elementary School community intact during what you have helped us see is the building of a brand new facility.
Thank you. Next on the agenda, excuse me, is items for discussion. We have first read, consideration of proposed community education facility rental rate increases effective for next school year, and I'll turn it over to Dr. Lindsay.
Thank you, President Greenberg. Good evening, and good evening to the members of the board. At this time, I'd like to invite Ms. Natalie Wilcox, our Director of Community Education, to the podium. She will be presenting a first reading consideration of proposed rate increases to district facility rentals. Community education rents out district facility space to our community when our schools are not utilizing the spaces. It's been quite some time since we've increased rental fees, and as you'll hear tonight, we've experienced increased costs over that time period and feel it necessary to make these recommendations to you. And before she begins, I'd just like to publicly thank her as well as the members of her team for all the research and hard work that they put into this proposal.
Thank you, Dr. Lindsay. Good evening, President Greenberg, Governing Board, Dr. Reynolds, Cabinet, and guests. Thank you for this opportunity to review information about the proposal to increase facility use rates in an effort to allow community ed to continue to be a self-sustaining as well as a contributing entity to the district. Tonight, I will be presenting a first read of the proposed increase so we can hear your questions and take your feedback into consideration. I do want to let you know there is a slight modification that should have been updated in your packets. I know, thank you, Ms. Chisman, for helping me out with that today. Our governing board policy, KF, outlines the use of school facilities as well as the responsibility to charge reasonable rates that cover the costs associated with the use of the space. The district facility rental rates have not increased since 2014, and with the increase in wages, cost of living, utilities, and supplies, this is an important time to review rates and to develop a protocol that allows rates to be increased and based on the increase of costs. This proposal outlines a plan to implement annual adjustments to community education facility use rates. The adjustment is necessary to ensure the long-term sustainability of our programs and facilities in the face of rising operational costs, specifically increases in personnel, supplies, and utilities. Within the presentation, I will break down the costs associated with each of those categories. The first one I want to talk about is personnel. The rate analysis on this slide is specific to costs associated with custodial and technical support. The rate for custodian includes personnel as well as supplies, such as those needed for janitorial services. This is the amount we charge to renters or to users, and it's not an hourly wage that's paid to our staff. The manner in which we bill for this service is comparable to the way other districts bill. As you review the custodial line, you will see that currently PV is at the low end of the rate comparison. The role of a technician of an auditorium rental is to provide support to a renter while simultaneously protecting the assets of the district. Our district technicians are present when our district equipment is being used. Technicians assist with sound, visuals, backdrops, and lights. This role requires a level of expertise and training that differs from other positions. Once again, you can see that PV bills at a lower rate than other comparable districts. This next slide condenses the information from the previous one to show the range of rates between districts. You can see where PV falls in each area. The minimum wage comparison shows where the minimum wage was the last time we considered rate increases. The minimum wage in January of 2014 was $7.90 compared to January of 2025, with the rate being $14.70. Minimum wage has increased 86%, while we have had no increase in rates for personnel costs. As previously noted, supplies are considered in the custodial fees. It's important to highlight the increased cost to supplies and materials from our records in 2015. Some supplies have increased in price as much as 85%. The cost of essential custodial supplies like toilet paper, garbage bags, cleaning solutions, disinfectant gloves are all subject to inflation and supply chain vulnerabilities. Prices increase from suppliers. As that happens, those costs are passed on to us. Additionally, increased facility usage by community groups results in higher consumption of custodial supplies. More events and programs necessitate more frequent cleaning, restocking of supplies, and increased costs are quickly realized. We do not anticipate a decrease in these costs. As such, we ask that an annual increase be applied to rates to plan for continued increased costs of supplies. Based on the comparative data that we were able to obtain from our district rate study, we recommend the following rate increase for personnel to be applied for facility rentals. The custodian rate to increase to $35 per hour and technician $40 per hour. Due to continued increased costs associated with minimum wage, the cost of living, it is further recommended that an annual adjustment be applied based on the district's projected wage increases and supply costs. This will help to cover the rising cost of both. The second category that we would like to discuss is costs associated with utilities. There is a lot of information on this slide, so I would like to highlight a couple of areas that might be helpful to understand. It's important to us to show the comparison across districts. However, there are many variables to take into account for the published rate for utilities. For example, most rates are calculated hourly, although some rates are listed as a daily rate. For comparison, or an example would be Cave Creek. They're listing a daily rate. Most districts calculate utilities separate from the rental of the space. However, you will see that Madison includes utilities in their rates. Madison has the Madison Center for the Arts, and so they charge all of the fees within that rate. Districts, including PV, have different rates depending on the classification of the renter. Costs for utilities can vary depending on the classification of facility use. For example, PV has 3 classes. One class, or class 1, is for school use. Class 2 is for 501c3 entities, and class 3 is for entities that are for profit. If you look at our auditorium rental, there are 2 rates that are listed there. One rate is for school day use, which means an event that's happened either within the school day or after school has dismissed. So the electricity has been on, air conditioning has been on, custodians may still be on site, and the other one would be non-school day use, so a Saturday or Sunday. At that time, additional support is going to be needed. In comparison, if you look at Gilbert's rates, they vary according to the space that is being used, whether it's an elementary school, a middle school, or a high school. And finally, another variable in utility rates is the time of year. We have 2 seasons for our rates. Most districts do. Rates are naturally higher from May to October than they are from November to April. All of these factors were taken into consideration as we reviewed a reasonable rate increase for utilities. Over the past 7 years, we have experienced a rise in utility expenses of approximately 21%. These increases are projected to continue. It is recommended that an annual rate adjustment be made tied to the utility costs that is directly linked to the percentage utility costs that the district is given. This will ensure that our fees remain aligned with our actual operational expenses. The third and final category that I would like to discuss is classroom utility rates. While there is not as much demand for classroom rentals as there is for other spaces, in reviewing our rates, we noted an inconsistency in the manner in which classroom rates are calculated. Currently, our classrooms are billed on a daily rate. Classrooms use might include a group who needs space for an HOA meeting, a Girl Scout troop, a church. We have had attorneys who rent rooms when they're discussing rezoning and need a space for the community to gather. We have a group that uses space during the summer for an institute. It's not common that a room is rented for a long period of time. Typically, it's a couple of hours at a time. This is the only category that is billed daily versus hourly and is incommensurate with the costs associated with classroom use. In an effort to create uniformity in our billing, clarity for our rentals, and a more accurate reflection of the costs, we propose changing the language from daily to hourly. In summary, I recognize this was a lot of information, so I want to just summarize the requests that we're presenting to you, that we would increase the facility use rate for personnel from $28 to $35 for custodian fees, from $28 to $40 for technicians, and that we would then apply an annual increase in rates based on the district's projected cost increases, and that would begin in July of 2026. Increase utility fees by 21.31%, and that would be effective July 1st, 2025. And then annually apply an increase based on the district's projected costs for utilities beginning in July of 2026. And then this last section should say classroom utility fees. Classroom utility fees to be billed on an hourly basis versus a daily basis to be consistent with our other facility rental spaces. again, effective July 1st, 2025. We have given careful consideration to these recommendations. Our goal is to continue to support our community and allow for the use of district facilities. The increases to these rates are necessary so that we can continue to operate in a manner that contributes to the district operational budget. At this time, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mrs. Wilcox. Does anybody have any questions or comments? Ms. Wani?
Thank you. It's very impressive. Very good work. So truly, thank you to you and your team for all that information. And you gave some examples about like who some of the renters would be. Do we have any after school like programs that like our like staff and families use that would fall under that category?
That staff would use?
Or just like a like does mascot fall into this category?
It does, it's a class 1, so there are no fees associated
Okay.
with that.
Okay.
Same with enrichment programs or anything that is related to a school function.
Okay. So those programs they're going to continue
Correct.
with the same
Correct.
costs that they've. Thank you.
Yes.
That was my question.
Mhm.
Dr. Lim?
So I'll follow up that one and then I'll come to the freshest one on my mind. So for this, just to get the best understanding, is these costs, let's say, for example, so Whispering Winds every year uses PV High School for their Chinese New Year celebration. So are they going to now incur an increased cost to be able to use that facility because they're not using their regular facility but going off site for that? Does this apply to programs that are, say, not enrichment, but they're coming from our schools and often supported by our local parent organizations?
They are not. They will remain the same. They remain as a class 1 rental.
Okay. I do have a few others. All right, I'll work through them. So my next one was, so I know you talked about technicians. Do we have a shortage of technicians in this district? Or are we facing a shortage of technicians to help support those evening activities and things like that?
Well, it's sort of ebbed and flowed. We are in a nice position at this moment, but we have technicians who we have sought technicians over the years multiple times, but we have a really good team right now.
Okay, and then assuming we ebb and flow and we do have a shortage, I know you said that you kind of touched on that these technicians help support these activities and their expertise is needed to engage with our equipment. Are we able to use outside professionals for this? And obviously there's a fee associated with them. Is there then also a fee associated with us using the equipment on site for, say, an activity that where a technician isn't available?
When there has not been a technician, we have worked with the technology department and Mr. Billings, and we have contracted out to meet the needs of a potential renter.
Okay, but does that incur a double cost in that we're using the equipment and using a professional, or is that then we're just paying for the professional to use our in-house equipment?
We're paying for the professional. Mhm.
I do have one more if we're. And then I wanted to talk, I know we're moving from a daily rate to an hourly rate. So are these going to apply to any existing renters or just new renters? So obviously we have Girl Scouts and other organizations that charge a very nominal fee to even take part. And so an increase in cost to these organizations may mean we lose them altogether to a different site that may be able to offer a different rate. Are we going to do this for all renters moving forward, or?
We would do it for all renters moving forward, beginning in July of 2025. Groups like Girl Scouts use the room for about an hour.
Okay. Perfect. Thank you.
Does anybody else have any questions, comments? This was just for discussion as a first read, so thank you, Ms. Wilcox, Dr. Lindsay. We appreciate all the information. And I'm sure we will be seeing it again on the next agenda. Next on the agenda is call for executive session pursuant to ARS 3843-103A5. The governing board may vote to hold an executive session regarding negotiations with employee groups. The purpose would be to meet for instruction and direction. Mr. Pantera, may I have an motion, please?
Yes. I move the governing board call for an executive session in accordance with Arizona Revised Statutes 38-431.03.A5. Discussions or consultations with designated representatives of the public body in order to consider its position and instruct its representatives regarding negotiations with employee organizations regarding the salaries, salary schedules, or compensation paid in the form of fringe benefits of employees of the public body. The purpose is to meet for instruction and/or direction.
All those in favor, please say aye.
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 All those opposed say nay. Any abstentions? The motion passes unanimously. The regular meeting is recessed at 8:15 PM to go into executive session and will reconvene after we return from executive session. There will be no action taken in the executive session, but there may be possible action when the regular meeting reconvenes. Okay, we are reconvening our meeting at 9:13 PM. Next on the agenda is direction to administration regarding negotiations with employee groups as discussed in executive session. Mr. Pantera, may I have a motion?
Move the governing board provide direction to administration regarding negotiations with employee groups pursuant to discussion in executive session.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Any abstentions? Motion passes unanimously. Before we adjourn, I would like to remind everybody who's watching us at home and here that the next regular board meeting will be held on Thursday, March 6, 2025 at 6:30 PM. Mr. Pantera, may I have a motion to adjourn?
I move we adjourn.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Motion passes unanimously. We are adjourned.